Hey there. Welcome to my channel. I'm Solomon, and I'm here to share with you the wisdom that I've gathered and continue to gather in my life, hoping it adds value to yours. If you want to check out my work, my website is in the description box. And if you want to support this channel, do hit that subscribe button. But otherwise, thanks for tuning in, and hopefully you get something out of this.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to
Hello.
welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Solomon here, and I'm joined here by a special guest, my younger brother on inspiration, Mr. Asad. Asad, what's your last name? Hussein, right?
Hussein.
Mr. Asad Hussein, big name, the son of the Sheikh, huh? The Sheikh himself. And we're here at what's the name of the restaurant?
We are in an Eritrean restaurant in London.
Yeah. It's one of your
called
favorites.
Nafta.
Nafta?
Yes.
Okay.
And I've come here 2 times before, which counts as my favorite restaurant in
Yeah,
town.
it's in the neighborhood, so that's what makes it his favorite. So it's in walking distance. So Asad, so the reason why Asad, we met were Princeton, right?
Yes, we did meet at Princeton. I think at the gym. I don't know what you were doing there, but
But we met at the gym.
yes, I remember this very vividly.
Really?
Yes.
No. I thought-
We started talking afterwards. You know, we're like, "Oh, hey, were you at that event?" Yes.
Yeah.
Became very.
You know that's how you know it's a sign from God or a kind of destiny that we should have met because I've never met somebody who grew up in the same circumstances as I did. So I used to always think my whole life that I was maybe one of a handful of, or maybe the only one, who was born in a refugee camp and raised there, right? Because most people find themselves displaced by civil war or family circumstances and they become refugees, but very few people are born into displacement, which is an entirely different experience. It's hard for me to even articulate, to describe, even in my own writing, and it's an important part of that.
I was born and raised in Kenya, in a refugee camp called Ifo. Refugee camp. We called it Ifo Nura, which is like an affectionate way of referring to it. A lot of people. So one of the interesting things is that I had the opportunity to leave the place and also meet people from that town all over the world, in Nairobi, in Minneapolis, in New York, in different parts of America, and now here in London. And they almost always remember that moment, that place as a very great place, a place that had, where they had joy, where they started their first steps, you know, into the bigger world. And so for me now, when I look back on it, it's not so much as a refugee camp as a home. I would say,
Yeah, that's the thing. That's something that I also try to express to people because when I tell people I'm a refugee, the first reaction is always one of sympathy. Like, oh, you know what I mean? I'm like, no, actually, because when you're born into this place, this is the only world I knew. There was no other reference point. And you're surrounded, like you said, with joy, people, laughter, and everything else. And that's not something that's like, you know, people learn about when they learn about refugee camps. They learn about deprivation, right? But there's actually a lot of joy that we experience, especially when you're born in. And this is a place that we call home, even though we don't have, you know, when you're stateless and don't have a place that you can identify with, like your parents and other family members, right? Like they know what Somalia was like. They know what is growing up in Ethiopia is like. I don't have that reference point.
Exactly.
This is all I know. This is my world.
I think I felt the same way in a sense because my parents measured time by how old I was getting.
Yeah.
Because I was the first one to be born in the camp,
Wow.
and for them they had always imagined they would go back home, right?
Yeah.
And as I'm getting older, it's sort of like your age sort of becomes a symbol of the time that's passing.
Yeah.
And they would be like, when visitors come to our house, my mom, I remember, would tell them, "Oh, and he was born here. Can you believe that?" It's like she can't believe she's been there for that long, right?
Wow, that's beautiful.
And it was really it was really a very interesting kind of experience because you, everyone else has a past, everyone else knows something other than the camp, and they compare it to that world, whereas you don't have it, and then that becomes for you like your home, you know, and sometimes even the refugees, those of us who were born in the camp, were called Qahuti, refugees, as if like to create a distance between those who just arrived and those who were born there. It was sort of derogatory in a sense because those who
Qahuti.
came,
Wow.
because refugee, called by other refugees, because for them they feel like they're Somali or Ethiopian or wherever they came from. Whereas for me, this was home. This is all I need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, okay, one thing that is kind of a distinctive experience is that I was the only child. Were there other children who were also born in the camp?
Yes,
Because
yes.
that's
I have two younger siblings who are also
born in the camp.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
wow. And you were left at what age?
I left at 21 when I was going to Princeton. Yeah.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and the first time you left home was to go to Princeton. So, like, that contrast is also
Like
crazy.
I think I left home for the first time when I was 15 to go to high school
Right.
in Kenya prop. Okay, so that was my first time leaving the camp and seeing Nairobi and other parts of Kenya that I have never been before, and that gives you now a different sense of like you have something to measure the camp against, right? Whereas before 15, I never really knew anything else, and I only knew this place. And this place, to this day, for me, as I remember it, is just home. You know,
Yeah.
it's just home. Yeah.
And it's the same experience I had with. It's kind of like a shocking effect, right? When you see a different reference point, right? Versus when you read about it or something like or hear about it. Because I remember it's kind of like when I came to America. Or no, actually this was in Yemen. When we left the camp, we went to the capital city of Sana'a. I didn't know what refugee. I've never heard the word refugee in my life, by the way. So that's how like much of a different world
It was.
it felt like insulated when you're born and when you don't have that reference point. And then I remember now I'm meeting other children, right? And you know, children are just, they don't know the weight of words, you know? The most honest people in the world have to be kids.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't get more honest than that. I remember then meeting some of those kids and seeing that they live in like big, you know, like the Yemenis, they live in compounds with big families. And I was like, yo, all of that is yours? And that's the first time I realized we were poor. And I was like, yeah, why do we have that? You know, I remember like as an innocent child, I was like, why they live like that? We live like this. I remember one of my uncles was hilarious. When I say uncles, it's not actually related, you know, like an elder
Yeah,
from the camp, because all my relatives lived in Ethiopia.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was like, Habibi, you're poor. He said it as a matter of fact. Look, I was like, we're poor? You know, and he's like, why are we poor? Like, Habibi, you're a refugee, bro. You don't know you're a refugee.
Yeah.
I said, oh, really? So other people don't live like this, and you learn about the contrast. So for you, because essentially, what your father's side is Somali, your mother's side is
Ethiopia. Yeah.
Ethiopian,
Yeah.
and Oromo.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mother's side is also Oromo. I'm half Oromo. And did you consider? But you're also in Kenya, mind you.
Yes.
So there's
I was in Kenya, and I think the camp there were enough Ethiopians as well in the camp, and South Sudanese people and Somalis. Although Somalis were the majority, there were Ethiopians as well. And I remember in our house, my mom would have visitors from her childhood days in Ethiopia, and they would come to the house and they would speak in this different language that I didn't understand, right? But my mom did, and those people, they can't talk to me, but they can talk to my mom, and I would just sit there and watch them and in my family then it was a sense of like there were a lot of languages. People would because like you said in a refugee camp you don't have anything, which means you really don't have you're not worried about having people over to your place. So in our house people would just come and stay for a few days and then go on if they're leaving the camp, or they would stay for a while until they can find a place, and then they would go on to that place. And my teacher, my father was a Quranic teacher, and he had a lot of students, and some of them would stay with us as well. So it was a big family in that sense, and anybody could just come and go. And one of the things that people now tell me because they used to call my mom the UN. She would cook for everybody, she would welcome everybody, and the house belonged to everyone, which for me as a young boy, I felt a bit selfish. I'm like, this is our house.
Yeah.
But my mom would scold me and she would say, everybody is welcome here.
Yeah.
And now when I meet people from that period at different places, they almost always ask me, oh, how is the UN? But it's not the UN, it's my mom, and it's a beautiful thing. So I think it was really an interesting place to grow up.
Yeah, I have maybe Ethiopian hospitality. Yeah, it's like I remember even times when my mom would take things from me to give to another kid, and I'm like, why? But now I don't have it and he has. How does that make sense? There's no equality in this at all. Like, what I mean? What kind of generosity is this?
Yeah.
But it teaches us, like, I think, whether you're Christian or Muslim, that value of generosity, right? Like that, because I think generosity is not about giving when you have, what I mean? Like the philanthropic efforts of millionaires giving away millions. No, you have that money to give. True generosity is depriving yourself of something for the sake of somebody else, right? Like when you don't have it yourself. To go from the refugee camp in Kenya all the way across the Atlantic to, of all places, Princeton, New Jersey, and Princeton University. And for those that haven't been to Princeton University's campus, the town, by the way, the school is located in Princeton, a town named after the institution. And it's a very, very obviously affluent place. At the exact opposite of what it is to be in a refugee camp. We have chefs that cater to our culinary desires on a daily basis. From for me, it's always baffling. Like growing up with always having to think about where your next meal comes from. Seeing so much food.
I think the Fitzgerald, one of the most famous American writers that went to Princeton, he has a novel that he wrote, and it's called based partially on Princeton, on his experiences at Princeton, and it's called This Side of Paradise. So that just shows you it's and this is why sometimes I joke. I say I've been to both sides,
of
to heaven and hell.
It's amazing. And so there, what was that? First of all, for those people, this whole channel is dedicated to inspire and share information of how we came from the places we came from to be where we are today. So for other refugee kids or young adults who are watching this, and they're like, oh, okay, like, this is inspiring to see one of our own to be in this highly prestigious and rare space, even for anybody in the world, regardless of your income status, right? It's very hard to get into a school like this. So how did that come about? How did you even hear about Princeton in the first place? And then, what was like that process, if you could summarize it, of like taking the exams and putting in the application, getting the references, and making this a dream become reality?
Yeah. So I think I would say for me, I had a different kind of experience, right? So I finished high school, and then after high school, I didn't really. I was working toward one scholarship that exists in the camp. It's a Canadian scholarship. It's called the World University Service of Canada scholarship, and it sponsors a few students from the camp every year. And for 4 years, I was working towards that to get a scholarship to Canada.
Okay.
And when I finished high school and applied for the scholarship, I didn't get it. And then I applied for another scholarship to, they have a Kenyan one as well, a scholarship to attend a Kenyan university. And I applied for that, and I didn't get it either.
Wallahi.
And then by then I was working for the national newspaper in Kenya, contributing articles.
Which is, by the way, he said that like very casually. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, like the Kenyan, the Daily Nation. I was writing for them, and I
What is it called? The newspaper,
the Daily Nation.
Daily
yeah,
Nation.
The
Okay.
Daily Nation.
Okay.
And I really didn't know what would happen to me, you know. And I was looking for opportunities, different opportunities. And there's a journalist friend of mine in Nairobi for whom I wrote an article when during the first Trump term. I wrote about my family's experience with the resettlement process in Kenya for Foreign Affairs magazine.
Okay.
Yeah, Foreign Policy, not Foreign Affairs. I'm sorry, Foreign Policy magazine. And then after the article was published, we met and we had a conversation. And he was thinking I had already attended college somewhere else.
Because you look much older, right?
Yeah, but also I was writing for foreign. But also because I was writing for Foreign Policy, and I had a few clips in the New York Times and other publications, The Guardian.
Wait. So, Leah, let's highlight the achievements, because this guy will glaze over all of his accolades and achievements. So you published, before you were first year in University of Princeton, you've already published in the New York Times.
Yeah, I've already written for the New York Times, I think twice. And then
Wow.
But it wasn't like, because I've always loved writing. For me, I wasn't thinking of, the New York Times wasn't as big to me then as it is now, right? Because now I've been to the US and I know it's a big deal. And so anyway, we met, and he told me why not apply to US universities. And I said I can't afford to pay for it. And he told me, if you get into the top universities in America, you can get a full scholarship. You don't have to worry about paying. And that's when I registered for the SAT. At the time, I had a few weeks before the December deadline, and I registered for the SAT exams, and then I sent applications to different universities in America, and I got into Princeton by the next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then you came to the US and you came to Princeton. So what was that 4-year experience like in terms of adjusting to being in that environment, right? And the rigor of school, because Princeton is a very rigorous institution. I think one of the most rigorous Ivy Leagues, certainly more than Harvard, I would say. That's just me, though. Especially true, at the undergrad level, because, because I was like a RCA. What is it? I forgot. Wow, man. I'm aging. What is it? Whatever they call it, basically like a mentor for the undergrads living in one of the colleges. And I remember one time I was mentoring one of them, and they were talking about time management, right? Mind you, my time management is poor, right? So I'm like, what am I telling this kid about time management? But I had to give him some kind of feedback. And then he pulls up his calendar. But I don't know if I think this is, every student I've met, their Google Calendar is ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom. I said, Bo, what? how to the point where there's literally no white space
Yeah.
in the
No,
day.
I remember this. I
And
remember
I was
this.
like,
Because
nah.
you have to back it. Like you have to back your calendars. So you already have your classes, and then you pack it with extracurricular activities, with events with people. Meeting like dinner for your friends has to be on there.
Oh yeah, he had
On the
that meeting
calendar.
dinner with
Otherwise,
friends.
yeah, because otherwise you would forget it in the rush of the moment. You'll be like, okay, what am I doing next? So you just your life is literally run by the calendar, and it's very stressful.
Yeah.
And yeah, and like you said, people need a bit of guidance.
Yeah.
In how to do it.
Yeah, he was giving me the guidance. I was like, but what is this? I was asking him a question. At one point, I forgot I'm supposed to give him advice. And so then in terms of handling that rigor, because oh yeah, we have to talk about this. By the way, we're both writers, right? But I don't know if I told you this actually, but I remember we were having a conversation, and you told me about the New York Times publication. I was like, oh, well, amazing. And telling me about how you're already started, at that point, I don't think, it was your sophomore year, did you finish the novel? You told me you were writing a novel. And at that point, I remember exactly, because so vividly, because it inspired me to also pursue writing more seriously. He told me he has 75,000 words. I'm like, bro, this kid, bro, he's just a sophomore or first year basically at that time. You've already got written a whole novel and published in the New York Times. I'm like, what am I doing in my life, bro? I was sitting down eating, right? And I was like, and I remember I having like
I think at Princeton, everyone's life sort of makes you rethink your own.
bro, I was like, nah, bro, we need to go back to the library. But I think I went back to the library right after that conference. I was like, I need to stay here and reassess what's going on in my life, and I was like, this is amazing. And you also, this is where it gets crazy for me. For those of you that read literary fiction, your thesis advisor was Alexander Hammond, right? Is that how you pronounce his last name?
Yes, Hammond.
Yeah, that's his thesis advisor. And then also one of your mentors, and I don't know if she wasn't officially a thesis advisor, but she was.
No, she was the reader for the thesis.
Yeah, the reader of his thesis, and whom you have a very close relationship with, is Jumpla Lahiri, right? Yeah, crazy. And that is a testament to also the caliber of greatness that is at Princeton in every department, right? But also from a writer's and reader's perspective, to have access to these kind of writers and teachers was beyond me. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And how was that experience? Maybe you could talk about, because he majored in literature or English.
Yeah,
What was
I majored
that?
in English, and I did a creative writing certificate.
Uh-huh.
And I think for me it was really because I have read books, and I've always loved books before coming to Princeton, but I didn't know like the distinctions between the books. That there are books that are about politics, then there are books about history, and there are books about. So the categorization, the different lanes in academia, the whole thing was very new to me, because in my head I could read anything. I was like, why can't I just read the politics books and the history ones and these other ones and this? But at Princeton there are different lanes, right? And it was a big struggle for me to sort of find what to major in, because I would find classes I was interested in different departments. But ultimately, I think for me, I realized I love writing. And the creative writing department had really good courses. I took a course with Jumba Lahiri. I took a course with Ala al-Aswani, the Egyptian writer. I like all these people that you sort of had idealized and whose books you had read are now teaching you, right? And you begin to learn something about what it means to write and to read, especially to read, because I went with a sense of like arrogance. I was like, okay, I know how to read. And then I remember I was taking this class on short stories, and I would read the short story 5 times. I would make notes on it, and I would go to class. And then the professor would start talking about the story I had read as if I hadn't read it, by noticing different aspects of the story that to me just didn't appear but are still there. And that's the moment I realized reading is a skill. And I was even hesitant about majoring in literature before that. But once I had that experience and I saw how, like, the depth that these people could go into, the kind of discipline they had, the competence, I knew this was something that I couldn't just do on a service level, and I had to really study. And that made the decision for me. Like, I knew, okay, now I have to study literature, and this is what I want to do, to write and to read books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you came a long way from that, right? From like the moment you said. By the way, it could also, these moments when it happens to me all the time, right? But I'm in a workshop, or there's a writer or a teacher explaining a part of a story that I never read in my first readings. And a lot of times it's just a testament of the story itself, how good of a story it is, because there's so many different things that are open for interpretation, and different kinds of interpretation. There's also a testament to building that reader muscle, right? For somebody who can see all these insights. So you came from that, learning how to read from one of the best readers out there, to writing your own novel, working on it, and then your thesis won the department's top award, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So, and it was Jhumpa Lahiri herself who gave that award. It was Jhumpa. No, because you have to give. It's big. It's a big deal, because I don't know how many people out there. Because it's only one award, right?
No, I'm sure there are several awards.
In the
But they're
department.
different categories, yeah.
For that category, there's only one award, right?
Yes.
Okay, so okay, and so it's a big deal, because first of all, I'm a big believer. We have to give each other our flowers, and because growing up from the families and communities we grew up in circumstances, we're very uncomfortable with praise, right? And it's partly because we're been conditioned in our lives to always strive more, better. You could be better. We have a lot of faults and gaps, but at some point we have to also stop and appreciate it's a kind of exercise in gratitude, appreciating how far we've come and the things we've done that they're not easy at all, and it's a huge accomplishment, right, for anyone. So I want to say congratulations, bro, for the thesis you wrote several years ago. I'm not gonna talk about how old these are, but yeah, it was 3 years ago. But still, we're celebrating now.
I don't even remember the details of the short story, but go on.
But we can. And and then the amazing journey of Asad doesn't end there, because Asad. So you graduated from Princeton, huge accomplishment. Won a top award in the English department. You have a novel, which, like I told you, inspired me to take my writing seriously, because we have to share these stories. And then you...
At Oxford, I studied refugee studies.
Oh, it was refugee studies?
Yeah.
Oh, what was the department? What department was that?
International development. Yeah.
Oh, it was the international, that's right. So, okay, talk to us about, you can see the trend of success right there. We went from Princeton, now we're on the other side of the planet, and we're in Oxford. So how was that Oxford experience, and what made you study refugee studies in particular? Because they have a creative writing department.
Yeah.
And apparently Emma Watson studies in that department.
The department. So for me, when I was at Princeton, I came straight from the refugee camp to Princeton, and I really didn't want to think about the refugee experience. besides writing about it
Yeah.
in my fiction, right?
Right.
So basically, what I did is I never took any classes. I think I took one journalism course about refugees, and I didn't like it, and that was it. I pursued my own interests. I studied courses in politics, in anthropology, in literature, um, and I enjoyed that. And this was my way of not thinking about that experience. And then when I got to the end of the 4 years, I sort of realized that I didn't quite understand what was going on in the camp. Why did my family stay there for that long? Why were we there for almost 30 years? Um, why is the camp run so badly? Where does the funds come from? How come Kenya is always threatening to shut down the camps? Why did the refugee issue become such a big conversation around the world? All these questions, I didn't really know the answers to them. And I felt, okay, now I need to sort of understand. Now I'm grown up, I can handle these, and I can think about them seriously on an intellectual level. And that's essentially why I applied for this master's, just to settle those questions for myself, and then I can go on with my life. And I went with that to Oxford, and Oxford has been really useful because, like Princeton, it's also a place with a lot of resources,
Yeah.
and it's a place that gives you time and space to think through those questions and arrive at your own answers. And I was grateful for that. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
what piece of advice would you give not only to your younger self but other refugees out there that might be watching this, right? About wherever they are in their lives, and the wisdoms, basically pieces of wisdom you've learned from your experience growing up in the camp and being in these
Yeah.
places.
So I think that's a great question, right? Because I think I've been very privileged in the sense that I saw people from that camp who went to great universities around the world before me. So there was a generation ahead of us that came to the camp as young kids, and I was in the middle generation that was born in the camps, and then there are those who came after us, and I've seen those who are older than me go to different universities around the world. One of them became a minister in Somalia.
Wow.
The South Sudanese kids that I grew up with are essentially ministers in the South Sudanese government. I've met people that I grew up with who left for the US when I was younger, who went to top universities in America. So I sort of had the great privilege of seeing success, right? Seeing other people succeed, which sort of makes you think, okay, I can do this. And I think it's important for people in refugee camps or in, growing up in poverty or whatever circumstances you are in. I think it's really important to think about the advantage that gives you. The kind of, because by being different, you have a different perspective. By being different, you sort of already stand out, where other people have to try really hard to sort of stand out in class, or they have to think really hard to say something original, or to write an essay that's really interesting. Whereas for you, because you're in a space where that's rare, where this is rare, you already have those things. And instead of comparing yourself to other people and being like everybody else, I would say use your experience, lean into it. For example, one of the things I discovered about one of my friends in America, he went to McAllister, Mohammed. If he's listening, hi, Mohammed.
What's up, Mohammed?
And I remember so he was in America. He went to America much earlier than I did for high school. He got a scholarship to attend high school in America, and then he went on to university. And I met him there. And I think one of the things I discovered about us, because sometimes, you know, you also have to look at what your friends are doing.
Yeah.
And how they are using this experience and how that experience had shaped them.
Yeah.
Is that he does things multiple times. Because as a refugee, you know you're not guaranteed of anything, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you don't expect things to work on the first attempt. And if they don't, you don't just go and cry about it. You try again and again.
I'm not gonna lie, I
and
do cry
again.
about it though. In my own way, you know what I mean? I'm like, damn, bro, I really thought that was gonna.
Yeah, and I think that sense of knowing, okay, the world is a place where you have to try harder, where you have to work harder.
Yeah.
And I think that is really useful because once you get out of the camp where things do work, you don't lose that skill. Even when things work, you will still get an interviews where you may not get the job or apply to things where you may not get them, and you'll keep trying because that that to you comes as an instinct. And I think I would say young people around the world, if you have the great privilege of being from a refugee experience, I would say lean into it and use it to go much farther than you think you can.
Yeah. Man's like Sheryl Sandberg. He said, "Lean into it." Yeah, lean into it. Yeah. And that's great advice. And one of the last questions for you here, Asad, is one of the things I'm trying to explore. I've explored both in my personal life and also through writing. Is, of course, when you're a refugee and you grow up in these circumstances, you witness and experience a lot of traumatic events, right? Whether it's you or to people around you, and grow up hearing about traumatic experiences of your family, and there's a lot of generally mental health challenges and issues, and it's something that's, I don't know if the right word is stigmatized here, but certainly brushed under the rug or not spoken about in a very plain and public way, which makes it hard to find the right avenues or outlets for how to handle some of the things that we don't know how to handle, or we don't even know how to give language to. I think there's a linguistic component to this that's fascinating because I don't know how you even say mental health in Arabic or Amharic. Like you have to patch together like some, especially the terms associated with mental health. Like we got to patch together words to even talk about it. And so, from your perspective, for others. This doesn't necessarily pertain to only refugees, right? But certainly for immigrants and people in diaspora, what is what word of advice or suggestions or coping mechanisms help with approaching mental health challenges? Especially to give you one example, for instance, for me, it's not even just my lived experiences. It's because a lot of my writing, it's fictionalized, and so is yours. But it's still based on real experiences we've witnessed, right? We're just trying to make sense of it through the creative art of fiction. And so, as a journalist, you appreciate that this is not, even though it's fictionalized, there's some interviews and research that goes into this. And that research really unearthed, for me, very difficult topics and memories for my family, right? Particularly my parents, when I asked them about, like, how did you come to the camp, right? So I guess this is an open-ended question around three things. One, any suggestions or things that you found very effective for refugees and immigrants at large to cope with really difficult challenges that they can't speak about with their families,
Yeah.
particularly refugee children. And then, what are some effective strategies you
Yeah.
think people
Basically, mental health, I've seen it around me. And once people leave the camps, um, they, they have always wanted to leave the camp. And that gives you a purpose when you're in the camp, right? You already have a purpose. So life in the camp is very, like, it's difficult, but it has, there's something to look forward to, right? A goal to accomplish in your life. You know, okay, my goal in life is I want to leave this camp. And then once you leave, you no longer know what you do with yourself. You feel guilty about the fact that you left your family back there. You feel, and sometimes it can be like counterintuitive, right? For example, Princeton, for me, I enjoyed the work. The workload, I enjoyed it. I never had a problem with any level of work at Princeton, which was what people, like the advice that I got was about how to manage your work and how to do things. And then I realized during the breaks was the most difficult time for me because I didn't know what to do with that, with the time. And that's when those memories come back, when the most difficult time was the times when I had nothing to do. And I had to fill that in with my own work, right? By setting my own schedule, by reading a lot, by doing things. And I think mental health is one of those areas where you have to do most of the work. No one else can do it for you. Other people can help you. They can facilitate that process. If you talk to a therapist, it's really good because the therapist can facilitate your interaction with yourself, the way you think about your own experiences. But ultimately, it comes back to just you, right? And I think the first try to get help if you can, if you have the great privilege of getting help. And if you don't, I would say, like, think about these things. It's normal, right? It's okay because of the journey you have made. To come from a refugee camp to Princeton or to America or to London is a big shift. It's a big change that happens once in a lifetime. And once you make that kind of leap, then it can be expected. It's like running very fast, right? If you run at a speed you don't usually run at, you lose your breath, obviously, and you have to slow down, think about it, and be like, okay, how do I catch my breath? What is it about that experience that I've had that's making me have these dreams, or that's making me struggle with the breaks, that's making me feel like find different ways of coping. And I think there's no one answer for anybody really. It's a matter of understanding yourself. But I think it would be really, really helpful if from the beginning you understand it's normal and it happens to everybody. Like all of us experience it, and it's
normalizing the conversation, raising awareness and normalizing
the conversation.
I still, even at the, no matter what age I am, one thing I struggle with is just having those conversations with your own family.
It's the most difficult because family, I think it's easier to reach out to friends about your mental health issues than family, because family worries about you. And you don't want your mom worrying about you. And even when you're getting better, if you tell your family, that sticks with them because it's such a taboo. Once you tell them, oh, I'm not feeling okay mentally, that would stick with them and they would treat you differently. And you don't want that, right? You don't want them worrying, but also you don't want them treating you different. Whereas with friends, they probably had the same experience. They probably, and it's easier, I think, the age difference, the experience difference between our
Experience,
parents
yeah.
and us
And the
is
culture,
so big.
Yeah.
Like the gulf between us is so big
Yeah.
that sometimes it's difficult to share those experiences and to get like the kind of support that you expect. Yeah.
Or even them, they don't. The way they've coped with their own extremely hard and significant mental health challenges, is you just gotta keep going. I think. And so the
Yeah.
advice they give you sometimes is hard to like. Right, you can't.
Yeah.
But I'm like, what do you mean? Or they tell you like, they tell you go to sleep. I swear, wallahi, I laughed, bro. When I heard that one time, I laughed because I was like, it helped me feel better. It's crazy because the humor of it. It's like go to sleep when you wake up.
Yeah.
How
No,
do
I
you-
think people sort of there's a great privilege in being able to get certain privileges that you have, right? And when you have those opportunities, those great experiences, people sort of assume that, okay, that's it. You're not supposed to complain. You're not supposed to have any
Yeah,
problems.
the don't complain part, yeah.
But then I think the journey, I always think about it like that. I think of like my journey and the different places I've lived in, and the kind of different ways I had to adapt to every place, and then how that also has impacted my whole life, right? Because you have certain experiences that you had and certain coping mechanisms that you developed that you no longer need them, but you still have them. And how do you get over that, right? Like how if something had made you survive the camp and was really a great privilege there, once you get out, how do you make sure you don't still retreat to those things, right?
Yeah.
And to grow and to find different ways of adapting to the new environment.
Yeah.
I hope I have answered your question.
No, yeah. And thank you for that, and thank you for your time, Habibi. Shukran jazeelan. And we can't wait for when your book comes out. I'm gonna buy.
I think I just did my first YouTube video.
Yeah, welcome, man. Thank you for me too, bro. Because when you're, you're gonna be extremely famous in a very short time, and inshallah, when the world gets to know how brilliant you are, this is gonna be the first.
You first had it here.
First met this guy here, and I'm gonna sell this video to the outlets. So maybe the New York Times or the New Yorker would like this. I'm gonna sell it for a high premium, and then we're gonna, wallahi, when I say this, I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I'm very proud of you, and I can't wait till your book comes out. You're not sharing it with anybody until then, it looks like, but only a few handful of people have read it, and I'm sure it's gonna continue to inspire other people because you are an inspiration, and the more people are exposed to you and your story, right, it's gonna change lives. And I think one of the great things that draws me to writing is the power of words to change lives, and we've experienced it in small and big ways. And to be on the other side, right, of that is really I think the ultimate award in life, really. And I know that's what your book is going to do, and that's what your story is going to do. Yeah. And when it's all said and done, Asad is going to be one of the greatest writers of our time. But we'll always keep him humble, though, right?
The same.
Relax, you know what I
mean? I do believe in you, and I think this channel is going to blow up.
Inshallah, inshallah.
I hope you would. I hope you would say I was the first one here.
Yeah. And we appreciate you. Thank you, Habibi. Good luck.
Right.
Appreciate it.